Today I'm here with Arash, a bass player in the band Tarantist. It's an Iranian band that has played so far 3 years, since 2008 in South by Southwest, and is currently supporting a human rights campaign on music is not illegal. Rock and metal, of course, are currently illegal in Iran, and many musicians are having to play underground in order to get heard. So, could you give us more information on this and like a brief history of what happened?
Yeah, and some of them are getting arrested, of course. So, being a kind of activist musicians and activist bands, we've been always singing and kind of criticizing the situations and what was going on in the country. And recently, we started up this organization. It's called Music is Not a Crime. The website is musicisnotacrime.org, and Facebook page is Music is Not a Crime. And hashtags are the same thing. So we basically are producing the music and content for the bands and the artists that are not permitted, or they are considered as illegal. They need to get permission, or those kind of nonsenses. Actually, we are helping people that are getting arrested or persecuted because of being a musician or artist, and just supporting human rights, freedom of expression in music and art, because you don't have to get permission, or you don't have to get any allowance by no government or no person to produce your art or your music or whatever it is. Also, the other causes are like women's rights, children's rights, human rights, minorities of like religious minorities or ethnic minorities. Those type of obvious rights that are just being ignored in some part of the world.
So, could you give me a brief history of basically where all of this began and where it currently stands at this point?
Well, the situation of the country, of course, when it doesn't make sense to you, and you're coming from a family that all the elements or things that you've learned is just different from what government is trying to, enforce you. So you wanna do something. You develop the ideas of doing those things somehow, and bypassing all the limitations. We've been doing it all these years through the music, and the more we actually went further and further, at some point we found ourselves that, okay, at this point we need to help other people. We need to raise awareness. We need to help like the other musicians that are asking us to, give them a hand and help them to make more content and music.
Now, as I understand it, a lot of musicians who are currently playing rock and metal and other types of genres in Iran that are legal, they're basically forced underground, and you are one of them. And so you have some personal experience in this. Could you give viewers an idea of the sort of conditions and that you underwent in order to be able to play music? And what was it like both learning a genre of music where it is legal and being able to perform with other people? How does that form together? How is that planned out, and where does it take place?
Well, back in 15, 16 years ago when we started this band, the situation was different than what it is right now. Internet helped a lot recently, but back in the time, we by the help of some like people from like older generation, because they used to be younger in the previous government during the Shah when he was in the office. So through like some friends and families and like people, we started to getting like the instruments and learning some part of like basic elements of the music, and then later on it was mostly self-taught materials, and us just being curious and passionate about the music and learning that and practicing a lot and a lot. We developed this kind of like music movement. And then back in the time, when we were living in Iran, we used to practice in a like closet-sized basements, literally, and then we were inviting our friends with text messages to come to our shows, and just used to have like 2 sets of different concerts each evening in our basement. Like 30 people were coming to the small-sized basement and banging their heads and listening to our music. Then the word got spread out. Later on, we got invited for festivals in Europe, and then after European festival, we got invited to play in South by Southwest. So we came here, but other people they were doing the same thing. Still, they're doing the same in like a small size rehearsal rooms in private areas, soundproofed, so no one hears them, or no one just tells on them or calls on morality police on them. And then a little bit better right now the scene is, but still it is not legal. It is not permitted in the society. You need to go get permission for your lyrics or your music. It needs to be in a way that some people liked it, but in their private lives, in their private basements, in their private rehearsing rooms, people are doing the music harder than ever. It is a lot more better right now. Internet helped them a lot. Like I said, they can learn things through the internet or have access to the materials through internet also. Some other friends like me that right now they are outside the country, we are helping these people by providing them the new and fresh material, educational materials, or spend time with them, connecting them with the other producers or musicians all around the world. So, we're helping the scene to get better and better.
So, most of the people who currently play in these bands, most of their exposure to this form of music, as just hearing the music in the first place, becoming familiar with it, I'm sure is very difficult. So, most of the exposure comes over the internet, I assume. So they learn their instrument over the internet. How do these people acquire instruments, and how does all this happen?
Yeah, see, that's a very good question. It is still a big challenge for people. You need to, back in a time, if there was any remaining instruments from the previous governments in the society, so very secretly you could have just buy it with a very expensive price. There are some low quality instruments in the country, and people that they can, or they have a relative overseas, it's just they order something and their relatives bring the stuff inside the country for them.
Is there some form of smuggling that has to occur in order to get instruments to them? I mean, are instruments outright illegal, or how does that work exactly?
Yeah, up to some point, yes. That's exactly like what you said.
Okay, so people, they acquire the instruments to become familiar with music over the internet, and then how do bands form together? How do people get to know each other in a society where everything is so pushed underground?
Everything is happening underground through like social media or the cell phone groups, or like this social network applications. They are in touch with each other, text messages, and then get-togethers or private parties. Everything is happening underground, under the scene.
So musicians network basically over social media to get to know each other through social media. So how can viewers help to support this, to support these people? How do people support your efforts?
Well, that's what we are trying to do right now by this like hashtags of music is not a crime, or MINAC, MINAC or MINAC, whatever. You can just talk about the issue and post anything and hashtag it and raise awareness. Just, it is helping a lot, And then, or if you can do anything, if you can help, just go to our website or contact us. We can see what kind of, help the other people can offer for the other musicians. We can connect them directly so they can talk with each other,
And just finally, are there any statistics on how many people a year are actually caught or imprisoned for music. Is there any statistic on that?
Yes, actually, there is an European organization, Free Muse. They announce very good number of like statistics, like countries like Russia, like Iran, like Cuba, like some Arab countries. They have a high rate of like execution for musicians. Yeah.
Okay, well, I can't think of any other questions to ask at the moment. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Just thank you, and it's great to be here in Austin.
Well, thanks everyone for watching.